recently, and his dog was working that truck. That piece of equipment, not that particular truck, correct.
Your motion to adopt?
Do we do the roll call?
No, I'm sorry.
At least all in
Let's go
favor?
after the agenda, okay, Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Nunez?
Yes.
Heinsberg?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes. Motion to adopt?
Second.
Any other discussion? Call roll.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Nunez?
Yes.
Heinsberg?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes. Introduce ordinance 1416, licensing of dealers, second-hand purchase metals, gems, and jewelry.
Yeah,
Right, that's
that's to do with jewelry stores.
good.
Chief here, this was a request from the chief, actually.
I got it here.
Actually, Detective Miskert was here, he did a lot of work on the, this, so we, yeah, maybe if you want to come up and just give the council the.
Basically requires some licensing, registration, format to fill the pawn shop.
This ordinance was recommended to the chief, to be recommended to the council. It's a copy of an ordinance that is commonplace in some of the other jurisdictions around. I know Ward Hills had their ordinance in place since at least 2000. The reason for our ordinance is that in 2009, the state of New Jersey enacted a new statute regarding records, maintenance of people that sell secondhand jewelry, necklaces, rings, not necessarily pawn shops, but jewelry dealers. The records requirement is that persons that sell these to businesses who have to give their driver's license, some sort of identification. The state enacted the statute in order to combat burglaries. The state, well, police have known for forever that most stolen jewelry wind up in jewelry stores. So the state wisely decided to enact the statute. The statute leaves out any sort of enforcement provisions and kind of has no teeth. So in order to put teeth into the requirement that businesses keep records, we requested that this ordinance.
Any questions?
No, I'll make a motion to introduce it.
And
I'll second it.
what, I guess, if you don't do this, what's the problem?
The problem is that if a store owner is found to have purchased jewelry that is later discovered to be stolen, under state statute, the jewelry store, the jewelry purchaser will be held responsible for receiving stolen property.
And I don't say it, you can predict the future, but in your experience, that's not an uncommon event.
We've had a little test pilot program going. We have one business in town which has been voluntarily complying with the proposed rules. And in the 3 months that I've been running this test program, I've already identified several burglars and known drug abusers who have been
So
selling.
for you and the chief and the whole department, strongly urge you to do this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Any discussion? Call roll.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Nunez?
Yes.
Heinsberg?
Yes.
Burgess?
Discussion of all sound ordinance?
This is a revised spreadsheet that indicates, I had a question from someone about the high and low, so this is what it looks like at those numbers, the 650, 775, 900, 1150, at 100% of utilization and 25% of utilization. Forget the stuff on the bottom, I didn't fix that. So you see, at 100% of utilization, it's the 91,000. If you go down to 25%, it's the 22,750. Quite frankly, that's probably, in terms of how low can it go, the answer is obviously zero, but that's a reasonable assumption that it'll be at 25% for each level of service. And I'm done.
When
then I see that you have police auxiliary here.
Yeah, we can take that out, I guess. I apologize, I left it there, so it would go, the ordinance have to say 87.7 to, basically 22,000. My apologies, I forgot about that, I was doing a couple of things. And I think the council should start to figure something out related to that aspect of it, too.
I do think that if this is approved by the voters, that we would have to do something for the auxiliary police. Or if that's something that we all know.
I just wanted to say one thing to you on the financial side, I'll required. 2% would be inside the cap, and 98% would be outside the cap. So it's not, although we have an extremely tight revenue cap, this is not going to compound the problem. Other things might. This is not it.
I know in South Jersey, they do something, I guess they call it fire police.
They're different.
Are they different?
Yeah, emergency, auxiliary police, and that's supposed to be kind of like a separate.
Right.
Then we talked about paying them for doing traffic details.
Right.
We can't. They're separate.
Councilman, just so we're clear, the spreadsheet includes police auxiliary, but the proposed ordinance, the draft of the ordinance does not.
Correct. Just for the record, I would myself be abstaining on this because I am a member of the fire department.
I will also be abstaining.
What is the chicken and the egg theory on this, Joe? First the ordinance and then the vote on the referendum?
First the
or-
ordinance.
Okay.
You want to put this on for July?
If you wanted to, you don't have to, you could introduce it tonight.
I make a motion.
It's not adopting it, but.
Well, what about, if someone wants to make an amendment to add some other points for other reasons after 2 weeks of thinking about it, what happens?
Well, if you introduce it tonight, that would be a substantial change, you would have to reintroduce it.
All right. Well, is there any basis, I think the council made of recruiting being points? Does it make any sense to anyone other than me?
I would have no problem with doing that, but if we're going to include it, we got to do it.
Tonight.
I would say yes.
What would that be, though? How would we word that, if we're interested in doing that? That every member that recruits a member, someone who lives in town?
Or wouldn't necessarily.
I don't know how to word that.
I mean, based on the point system in there, I would say 15 or 15. Based on the point system I've seen.
And I would think we'd have to put a condition on it that the person that's recruited would have to remain active for 7 years. It's not like you get somebody in for a month and they leave, that you're gonna get.
The recruiting is serving that.
They would have to serve
They would have
for.
to, yeah, I mean, I think it would be too cumbersome.
The attorney suggested perhaps that something when after they've made the 3 years or whatever you want to put, then it becomes the bonus.
What the attorney said is that the last meeting, I would like the recommendations as soon as possible. I got them as late as possible, and this is what we have. If you want to substantially change it, then I suggest we visit it further, and I write one and not start handwriting stuff in tonight at the last minute.
I suggest we.
So either introduce it or we carry it,
So you could basically.
not start changing it tonight at the last minute.
No, I don't think we should change it.
You can introduce it, and if you want to change it next 6 months from now, amend it by another ordinance.
And just to tell you, just to even with
That's
living
fine.
allowance.
If you change it, you introduce this, let's assume this is as written.
Right.
The copy that everyone has. It's introduced, it gets adopted, the referendum goes to the citizens. If you then want to make changes, you then have to go through the same process, and it again has to go to the people of the town. You can't create, you can't create the LoSAP, and then after the people vote on it with the understanding of what the high and low will be.
Make the changes and then we'll reintroduce it in July, when's the next meeting? July 15th?
So you're changing the
22nd. I think.
Just keep it in mind, we're under a deadline.
Well, that's why I don't think we should be like
No,
somebody else.
I don't think we should change it, and I'll tell you why. What you suggest in there, from a paperwork standpoint, is very hard to keep track of. People saying that, they have to meet a certain criteria and go back and forth. It's too much for whoever the secretary is gonna be from that organization to figure that out. It's very time consuming. So, to make it as easy as possible, I think it's good the way it's written, and
Michael, wasn't part of, the whole idea of LoSAP to, attract and retain health careers? I mean, I think it's kind of counterintuitive.
I just said I didn't have a problem with it, but I'm really just finding out about it tonight.
Well, I spoke to Lynn about it, a while ago.
I thought we had someone had this conversation based on Mr. Councilman Nunez's interest.
Like I said, I don't have an issue with putting it in here. I can, being from the volunteer side, I can see where it could create some confusion, but I would not be opposed to adding it. But the thing we're at now is this has got to be done so we can get this on to the county in August. And we're running out of time, right? And if we don't get it by this August, then you gotta wait till next August.
And it's not just bringing somebody in, it's bringing somebody in, making sure they go through the proper training, making sure they have their one-borne pathogen, making sure they have all the required training, and then, doing that. And for whoever the account secretary is gonna be, that's a tremendous amount of work to go back and award those points based on that. So, I think it just makes more work for them.
I'd like to leave it as is.